As I was saying, we have a good relationship, economic relationship, but it has to be much, much stronger from my point of view. And this is what this government is going to do in the future. We are going to change a lot of things to make Romania, well, not just more attractive for investment, but also we're going to be proactive in attracting investment in Romania. I think, we've seen our strategy for this year and for the next years increase gradually the amounts that the government invests in the economy. We try to keep by the golden rule. If we borrow, it should be just for investment, not for unproductive expenditures. So those are two things that were changing from previous governments, and we actually show that this is working. Investing has helped the Romanian economy get out of the last year's shock with few scars, not unscathed, but with few scars. But at the same time, with production capacity unchanged. Actually, we've seen in the first quarter this year, the net investment in the economy increasing. That shows that there's trust in this government from managers, from companies in Romania, that things will go as planned so far. The things I said, a few things at the beginning of when I took over as Prime Minister with this coalition, and we'll stick with those. For example, I said we're not going to fiddle with taxes. We don't want to increase taxes. We don't want to introduce new taxes. This is something that we stand by because we think that there's other ways, non-inclusive ways that we can raise revenues, and we show that this year and last year also, but this year especially, that we can increase revenues without increasing taxes. It's just when government pays its bills on time, for example, when it's transparent, when it doesn't harass investors, there's a reciprocity, and people pay their taxes in time, and we've seen actually voluntary payment of taxes increasing. So the things that we, going forward, we do have this massive opportunity for Romania. The 76 billion euro coming to Romania from two sources. The RRF, which is going to be approved in the fall by the European Commission, and the European funds. Both of those are two big sources of revenue for Romania, along with what we're going to spend for Romanian government, which is a minimum of 15 billion euros a year that will go into investment. So those are, the strategy that we started at the beginning of the year. We continue. We don't want to change things during the play. We said we're going to be predictable. So all the decisions we take, we discuss first with the associations, representative associations of the business community. Every time we want to change something, but in terms of taxes and or new taxes, we stand firm by the decision not to introduce new ones. And you've seen that also in the RRF on the reform part, that we are going to increase. We're going to reduce deficit by increasing revenues, a non-inclusive way, a voluntary payment of taxes, and by controlling expenditures. Those are two things that have been approved already by the European Commission. The European Commission, in their recommendation for the EDP, has adopted our fiscal strategy, our path of reducing deficit until 2024. So I think this is, it adds to the credibility of this government. The same thing, you remember at the beginning of the year, we had the S&P upgrading us on their perspective. I expect the other to do the same in the near future. I think it's going to happen in the next few months. So the things are going in the right direction in terms of where we're moving for the next period. We will stick to investment. I think that's the solution. We'll invest. Romania does need investment, which means opportunities for companies even from Germany. These investments need to be put into place by companies with experience, companies that have done this in other countries, companies that know how to do that fast and professional. So there's the opportunity, 76 billion euros coming to Romania from EU funds. and 15 billion euro a year from government investment. Well, from my side, things are very clear, and I made that very transparent. Through the RRF, I intend to have few hospitals built by 2024. We've seen that the pandemic has shown that every health system in the world has been under pressure. Countries that we thought have developed systems, health systems, they've been also under pressure. There's no, Romania hasn't been built, a hospital hasn't been built in Romania in the last 30 years. We will build few of them, modern ones, in the next few years through the RRF. So that's one thing. The other, priority. The other priority is the infrastructure. Obviously, Romania is a laggard here. The last 30 years, there have been a lot of promises, but no delivery. We will deliver going forward. Infrastructure is the backbone of development. Having a modern infrastructure for our goods to be shipped within Romania or outside Romania, just to create a better connectivity. It is key to development. So infrastructure, both railways and highways, it is a top priority, and it will be funded through the RRF. So those are two key things. The other issue that we have in the RRF, it's how we develop poorer local communities. Throughout the last two exercises in European funds have somehow left, there's a lot of communities in Romania that have not been eligible for EU funds. We will do that in the next period. Some of those will be developed through RRF, some of them will be developed through government funds. They all have to do with infrastructure, again, developing the infrastructure, just modernizing all those areas. So Romania is going in the next 8 years through a big transformation. This money are coming into Romania, and then they will go directly in those areas that have been avoided by previous governments. Yes, it is a tough challenge. We'll make sure that every penny is accounted for. That's another promise I make publicly, but it will also deliver. It is important to deliver because this is an opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity for Romanian economy to develop. I think if we add it up, we can talk about around 150 billion euros going into investment until 2028. That's why I keep talking about this government having an objective of 2 mandates. We want to start those projects and we want to end those projects in 2028. And this is the message I always take in the country, in Romania. You mentioned that I'm now traveling. Yes, I'm traveling because I want to see, and I'm going a lot in poorer areas, areas that have been avoided by investment. Actually, let's make that clearer. They've not been avoided by investment. Money have been directed to those areas, but they never have gone into infrastructure or into developing the communities. Those money have ended up in the wrong hands, and we want to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore in the future. So on education, I think education and health, those are the priorities also for the government. But education, we have Educated Romania, which is the program started by the President of Romania. There's 3.6 billion euros dedicated to this program in the RRF. So there, it's very clear. But back to your two questions, I think there's one thing that I believe firmly. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So when it comes to professional education for skills, we already have in Romania best practices. We have companies, some of them are German companies, that have already set up systems, with high schools that are close to them, where they prepare people for their own company or for anyone else who needs the skills. So I think what we need to do is to take that practice and actually extend it throughout Romania. We'll see how is it going to be funded, but I don't want to do something different. That works. We've had those experiences. I've seen that in Maramureș, in Satu Mare, I've seen that in Brașov, I've seen in Timișoara. There's all these places where companies have already didn't wait for the government. They actually did their own thing, which is great. because now we can take that experience and extend it to throughout the country. So there I'm not concerned. We just have to set up the system for everybody. We have the best practice already. It's a system imported from Germany, you're right, and it's something that works also in Romania. In terms of research, I think there's a lot of work to do. Personally, I see research centers around universities, near universities. This is the system that I prefer. Also, what I prefer is that research centers compete for funds. I'm a firm believer that only through competition from funds you can actually develop something through research. The way it is done right now, that every institute receives money from the government without any anything back, asking for anything back. I think it's a flawed system. We should should make sure that the money that are invested or the money that go to research, they actually produce something. So far, I've seen if you look throughout the world, the systems that work best are where research centers are connected to universities, and we do have good universities in Romania. And I think this is one of the priorities, and the other one is to make sure that money there's a competition for those funds, competition between research centers. Only competition brings out best. Otherwise, we'll just have pour money into research center without having any results. And I think that's something that not just Romania is learning, but I think throughout Europe we're learning that research has to be funded, but on the other side it has to be something tangible, and those research centers have to compete for funds. This is another challenge, and let me just say from the get-go, Romania fully supports the Green Deal. We are on board for this objective. This is something that we stand by. However, Romania starts, like few other countries, from a different starting point. And for us, the speed of implementing the Green Deal objectives come with a social cost. Of course, there's support from EU funds, and then we have to make sure that those supports get in time. But also, we'll make sure that the areas where Romania will have, some social costs are developed faster. These areas are priorities for investors in Romania. I'm looking already at some of such opportunities. We don't want to have to, leave anyone behind because of this objective. So this is important to us. But it is the only way going forward. We know there's an issue globally. Everybody acknowledges it. We all have to do our part. It's just that I think that Romania and a few other countries will have a different speed of achieving that goal. We can, speed it up if there's support from Europe, from other countries in Europe on the short term for this transition. So there's no doubt in my mind that we will stand by this goal. I think that one comment I make here, and I made when I was the Minister of Finance last year, that we have to be careful when you use fiscal policy to achieve this goal. Fiscal policy might be too blunt of a tool to use here. I think there's other, I would rather work through incentives than through coercion. That's just my personal opinion. But of course, I'm sure we'll discuss this in the future. Let me just confirm to you that Kurzarbeit is here to stay. We have improved it in the last month. Let's see how this new version goes forward. If it needs to be improved, we'll improve it further. But it stays here after the state of alert. No problem. Thank you.